All right, good morning, dummies. Streaming all day today. I've missed a couple of weeks. I missed hanging out with you guys. I'm streaming all day today. I'll be uploading reaction videos and halftime reports all day today. It's about 11:30. So we're about 30 minutes away from the noon kickoffs. Streaming schedule today, noon and 7:30. Patreon. So the link is in the description of this video, the Patreon page. A lot of you already signed up over there. But noon and 7:30 live streaming all the games on Patreon. 3:30 live streaming on YouTube. That's the streaming schedule. All right, a couple of prediction videos I didn't get to this week. The big one, Ohio State on the road at Oregon. Back in the preseason, I picked Oregon to win this game solely because it was a home game for Oregon. It was a tough game to pick in the offseason. It was a tough game to pick in the preseason. Honestly, it's a tough game to pick now. Ohio State's favored by 3.5 on the road in Austin, a tough place to play. I'm switching my pick to Ohio State here. I just don't feel like I can trust Oregon enough in this spot right now in a big game at this point in the season. Number one, Dan Lanning really has never won one of these games. You go back to last year, he had 2 shots at Washington, lost them both as a favorite, actually. And he's an underdog this time. It's not that I don't think Dan Lanning's a good coach, and Lord knows Ryan Day's lost some big games too, but he's won some big games. He's beat Michigan. He's won the Big Ten. He's made the playoffs. He's done those kinds of things. Dan Lanning hasn't. And the quarterback play, I still think Dylan Gabriel's a better quarterback than Will Howard, but Dylan Gabriel makes too many mistakes. It was happening early in the season, happened again last week. He had 2 turnovers in the red zone, in the end zone, actually. I think Oregon, if Oregon can control the lines of scrimmage, I think they're going to have a chance here. Now, Ohio State skill position players, particularly those wide receivers, are going to be a handful for anybody. But Oregon's got a great front 4, great front 7. If they can get pressure on Will Howard and neutralize some of that downfield passing game, they're going to have a chance to win here at home, good lines of scrimmage. And Oregon's got skill players of their own. Tez Johnson on the outside. They've got a couple of good running backs. These are 2 really good teams. This is a hard one for me to pick here. I went back and forth all week. But I'm going to switch to Ohio State, though. Other than this game being at Oregon, it's hard to find a real advantage there. Like I said, maybe the lines of scrimmage, Oregon can find a way to kind of neutralize some of what Ohio State likes to do and kind of try to take over this game in the trenches. If they do that, I think they have a chance to win. But Ohio State's just been the better team more consistently throughout the course of this season so far. I know the who would they play deal, and Ohio State hasn't played a lot of great teams. Neither has Oregon, really. I mean, they played Boise State. They beat them by 10. Didn't look great. I haven't seen Oregon play well enough for me to be able to stick with that pick. This is not a talking shit thing about Oregon. I still think Oregon's a really, really good team. This is not an elimination game for either team. And the one thing I haven't changed my mind on from back in the preseason when I did my predictions is I do think these 2 teams are going to play twice. I think we're going to see it today. I think we're going to see it again in the Big Ten championship game. That brings me to my second prediction here. Penn State on the road at Southern Cal. Penn State currently undefeated. I think they're a good team. They got a huge showdown coming up at home with Ohio State in a couple of weeks, but they got to travel all the way out west today to play Southern Cal. Now, Southern Cal didn't look great last weekend, losing to a bad Minnesota team. I actually think Penn State beats them today. I think Penn State and Ohio State might both be undefeated when they play later in the year, and that's going to be a huge game either way. But if they're both undefeated, it'll be one of the biggest Ohio State-Penn State games in a while. My concern here for Southern Cal, run defense. Southern Cal's defensive line was not very good at the start of the season. It's infinitely worse now. They've had quitters. They've had injuries. The players that are left, honestly, just aren't very good. And in the end, it's still Lincoln Riley defense. And we can have the Miller Moss versus Drew Aller debate. Who's better? Who's been better? Who has a higher ceiling? All that kind of stuff. I like both quarterbacks, actually. But running the ball, I think Penn State's got a huge advantage in this game. Huge advantage. If Penn State can avoid the turnovers, I think they will get a win on the road today at Southern Cal. I'm going with Penn State in that one. Colorado hosting Kansas State. Kansas State's a 3.5-point favorite. Of course, I'm picking Kansas State. I'm not picking Colorado. I don't care how many miracle wins Colorado gets over Central Florida. I'm not picking Colorado here. I think Kansas State, with that quarterback Avery Johnson, goes into Colorado, gets a win. Again, in this game, to me, with a lot of Colorado games, I feel like it comes down to the lines of scrimmage. Now, in all seriousness, let's give Colorado some credit. They played Central Florida last week, who's ran the ball up and down the field on almost everybody they played. Or a couple of weeks ago, I guess that was, and it beat them. In fact, it wasn't close, Colorado and Central Florida, at Central Florida. But I think they lose today at home. I like Kansas State. I think they're a better coach team. I think they're more well-rounded. I think they're more of a team than Colorado is. Colorado's going to have probably the 3 best players on the field. Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and I like that Horn, too, the wide receiver for Colorado. I think Shiloh's back today, too, from an injury he suffered earlier in the year. But I like Kansas State to win. I like Kansas State to win that one. Georgia Tech at North Carolina. I like Georgia Tech. What else is going on today? In some of these early games, Alabama will roll South Carolina. Arizona at BYU. God, BYU. You know what? I'm taking Arizona. Screw it. Don't care. Don't care. But those are the big ones. Ohio State and Oregon. I've already talked about all the SEC games in a separate video. Earlier today. So that's where I'm going there. Iowa's playing Wisconsin. Just take the under. Just take the under. You already know. Shit, every time, just take the under. Is that right, Iowa, Wisconsin? Yeah, Clemson's playing Wake Forest. Clemson will win big there. I don't know. There you go. So the streaming schedule, noon, 7:30, Patreon. There's a link in the description of this video to the Patreon. If you're not signed up with Patreon, what are you doing? We have a great time. Noon games, Patreon. 7:30 games, Patreon. The 3:30 games, I'll be right here on YouTube. We can all hang out and watch the games together. All right, let's enjoy a great day of college football. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a good morning.